Okay, we started out on the chest. So I'll ask you guys what muscle this is.
The xiphoid.
Xiphi what?
I can't remember.
Humerus.
Xiphi humoralis. The next one up here. Just up from the xiphi is pecto what? Nope, not pecto antebrachialis.
Pectoralis minor.
Pectoralis minor is the next one. Then the pectoralis major, which is smaller than the minor on the cat. Then the pecto antebrachialis. Okay. So on your numbers it was 1, 2, 3, and then this one got cut off. So over here we see number 4. Okay. Number 5 was this big one. What is that? Latissimus dorsi, and then underneath here the fingery looking one. Serratus anterior. So those are ones we found on the front. Okay. We also did this one on the arm that's kind of wimpy, goes down to the elbow. Last week we did that one. Epitrochlearis. Top of the arm. Biceps brachii. Bottom of the arm, all of this in here. Triceps brachii. Gotta remember I had brachii in there. And then this one we did here, the most medial one on the forearm. What was that one? That's a little tougher. It's the thumb side, so it's the most medial one. So what bone is that? That's the brachioradialis. Okay. Questions? Looks like we need to review those more, right? Okay, those names. Latissimus dorsi was this big back one. And we came around and we looked at some of these that are trapezius muscle. This first one we cut. So that was the spinotrapezius. Thank you. And flip that one back. We also had next to it this one. What's this one? We cut that one too. Acromiotrapezius. This one up here on the neck we did not cut. Clavotrapezius. So on the handout it was 1, 2, 3. Spino, acromio, clavotrapezius. Clavotrapezius ends here, and we pucker that up, and we see we got a new muscle here. What's that one? They look like they kind of continue on when we pull it taut, but it's two muscles. Clavotrapezius leads to clavodeltoid. Clavodeltoid is one we said we could see on both the front and the back. Next to that, this one is acromiodeltoid, and next to that, this one is spinodeltoid. So it went clavo, acromio, spinotrapezius, clavo, acromio, spinodeltoid. One more. We found kind of diving underneath it, this little one right here. Anybody remember that one? Lifts the scapula. Levator scapula. Then we took and we cut these so we could see underneath these two trapezius. Above the spine right here, this meat is what? No, above is supra. Below is infra. On the underside, this is subscapularis. Okay, so those are in the three fossa. Subscapular fossa, supraspinous fossa, infraspinous fossa. These, what are these right here? Your rhomboids, okay. Rhomboideus, is this major or minor? Minor. The bigger one is the minor. The upper one is the minor. Okay. On us, it's the smaller one. Lower one, major. Lower one comes around so it doesn't attach on the edge. It attaches more here on the front. Okay, so it's not very big. It comes around. And where it ends, we get a new muscle beginning. What's that one? That's the teres major. And that was it we did. Okay. So on the handout, your hands are still clean, right?
Yep.
Can you go to page 2? Page 2 is the cat muscle page. And after today, we will have done everything except for the lower leg and the upper leg. That's what we'll do next week. Okay. So you should be able to go on your list right here and kind of check off, whoa, I just went over. They should all be there. Now we haven't done like abdominal ones, so we're not done yet with this. But again, these we'll do next week. These you should be able to do after today, all that whole list. There is a list like this. You turn back to the first page. That marries the two together and just blends them all together and puts it alphabetical, and that's what's on D2L. And that's what I'll give you for the test. Obviously, it's not as many terms as we had for the bones. So in that way it's easier, but I think they're a little harder to pick out than the bones, maybe the muscles. So I'm going to do the neck muscles, which are probably the hardest ones to dissect, but you're all pros after a couple weeks now. And the reason they're hard to do is they're really small. They're covered by lots of fascia on here. So take your time in doing it. One side on the cat too will probably be chunked out because that's how they drained out the blood as they cut into those blood vessels. So that makes it a little more challenging too. You're going to have another side as a backup on here if you screw up on it. On the picture here, this is superficial muscles. They haven't cut anything away. And we said that there's 2 V's. By the way, take your skin and skin them. I even used the scalpel these guys saw me cut all the way up on the chin, so I make sure that I have exposed all of that and I can see these bones right here. Those are the jaw bones that you're seeing, creating that kind of Y right there. On the picture, the muscles that run along the jawline, those are the digastric muscles. So I say they create an upper Y. And again, this one I've cleaned off a little bit, so yours might have more crud on it to be able to see those clearly. You might have to scrape some of that fascia off to be able to see the digastric muscles. But they will run along that jawline, one to the left, digastric, and you don't have to isolate them that much here, just kind of clean it off so you can see them a little bit better, and one to the right. They go at a little bit of an angle if they follow the jawline, so they're not going straight back. And in between these 2 digastric muscles, the muscle that I call the chin strap running across this direction is called the mylohyoid. By the way, the hyoid is, a lot of this one doesn't show it really well because it's a smaller cap. A lot of you have a huge blood vessel running across here. That's basically where your hyoid bone is. So all these muscles that have that name hyoid in it are attaching to that hyoid. So again, we have digastric, creating an upper V, and in between those we have mylohyoid. And it runs, you can get that crud off and see that it runs like a chin strap across this way. I need you to dig underneath the mylohyoid so that we can expose, and it's a very thin muscle, okay? And I'm just going to kind of rip that off there to show you that underneath it is another muscle, and that's the geniohyoid. But when I do this too, you can kind of see how this muscle runs in this direction across the chin strap. That's the mylohyoid. Underneath it is geniohyoid, and the geniohyoid runs like the digastric front to back. But you can see how puny that little muscle is. There isn't much to that. Okay, so you can easily just rip that off. Be careful on that one. Geniohyoid underneath the mylohyoid, mylohyoid between the 2 digastric muscles. The 4th muscle up here on that chin, you're going to have to dig off to the side here, and you see I've had to push lots, and you want to use your scalpel or scissors again to cut that back a little bit skin-wise so you can get in there a little better. There will be probably some glands in here, some salivary glands they point out on here. But what we're digging towards is a muscle off to the jaw muscle over here, the masseter muscle. And the masseter muscle will be kind of all encapsulated. So it looks like a little ball over here. That's the jaw muscle or masseter. And again, it has some pretty tough connective tissue fascia on the outside of it, that white shiny stuff. So that's the masseter. And right here, that's not the muscle, that's the salivary gland. So it can be maybe hidden behind that a little bit. Find one masseter. Then we're going to go down and do these ones that we did on the neck. And the V that we will produce, you really can't see it on this side very well because they chunked it off. But on this left side, you'll see the V from the bottom. The V from the bottom is the muscle we call the sternomastoid. If you remember on the human, we called it sternocleidomastoid. So when you look at the torsos, it starts as one and then it splits towards the bottom, but it's one muscle. On the cat, we say it's completely split. We have a sternomastoid, this Y-shaped one right here, and deep down here below it, this is cleidomastoid. So we're going to dig a little bit lower to get to the cleidomastoid. The cleidomastoid goes more straight up and down, but what we're saying is there are 2 separate muscles. Sternomastoid on the outside going from the sternum to the mastoid or ear, and then cleidomastoid going more straight up and down. Okay, so there's 2 more. So we've had a total of 6 muscles. Then we have 3 more here right down the midline of the neck. Now, these are probably going to be, again, all fused together, and you're going to have to clean off to be able to see them. But the first one that I've got goes from the sternum all the way up to the hyoid bone, and that's on the bottom picture here. They've cut one side off. They've left one side on. On here, they have both of them on there. That's called the sternohyoid. And you've got a right one and a left one. So they'll be fused together. It'll look probably just like one big muscle, but it'll have a line right down the middle so you can separate those two. So that's sternohyoid. If you push that off to the side, you'll see some littler ones underneath it, also going straight up from the sternum, but not as high as the hyoid. It stops right here where this gland is. This gland is the thyroid gland. And so this is the sternothyroid. And again, on this side, they've cut it off so you can see the sternothyroid underneath the sternohyoid. That gets to be sort of like a mouthful, right? A tongue twister. Sternothyroid, sternohyoid. Remember this. Sternohyoid goes higher to the hyoid. Sternothyroid doesn't go to the hyoid. Almost, but not quite. Then we have one little, this is the tiniest muscle of all you're going to be the most careful with, where the thyroid, sternothyroid ends. We have a little muscle that connects from the thyroid to the hyoid. That little tiny bit right there is the thyrohyoid. That's it. That's all there is to it. So don't chunk that one. That'll come off real easy. Total of 9 muscles on the neck. Take your time and find those.